So an aquarium is never a one job mission. So this tank has taken time to get to the condition it's in. Most likely a dead goldfish and probably overfed. And there's still a lot of sediment in here. So I'm going to use my net and try and scoop a bit of the sediment out. But basically it's very common when I leave a job for the job to look worse than when I came. And that's often because I absolutely disturb everything up. That's normal. Now, one thing we've got to be aware of with our aquarium is the more fish we have, the more water changes we have to be prepared to do, especially with messy fish such as goldfish. So if we have cleaner fish, if we have smaller fish, if we have less fish, we don't have to do as many water changes. Otherwise, over time, our nitrate and phosphate will accumulate, and then we will have to do more water changes according to how dirty the gravel is and what the water tests up as. So less fish and smaller fish keep cleaner tanks. The other thing that makes a huge difference is the food quality. Feed good quality food, you don't need to feed as much, and the food is much cleaner. This tank is also a bristlenose. Now, a bristlenose is an excellent fish with goldfish because it usually will not suck on the side of the goldfish. Now, the only thing to be aware of is that they are a tropical fish, which means if you get a really cold day, you'll lose them. So I highly recommend these with your fish, but if you've got a heater and thermometer, because we need to get a heater in there, or we will end up losing the fish. Taking the air filter out of this pump because it's very, very dirty. I'm hoping it pumps a little bit better now that I've removed the very dirty air filter. So these filter lines are very, very dirty. So once again, it's quite common when I leave for the system to look worse, and that's because I've disturbed everything and cleaned everything. But all that sediment just came out of the filter lines. I'm just making sure this filter is full of water before I turn it on. And also it's important that our air stones don't suck into our strainer. So in this case, this pump's not very powerful, so I don't care that it's not at the bottom because it's going to actually break the water surface more towards the top. And then we've got this strainer here, which obviously those bubbles can't go down and into because we don't want those bubbles going in there or it causes us problems. And we want to make sure that we're agitating the water going back in. So see the way that's falling into the water? The fact that that's falling and agitating the surface is re-oxygenating. Because what's going to happen is lots of good bacteria is going to grow in the filter, and the good bacteria that grows in the filter is going to break the waste down from the fish. And so that's why we want to make sure that when the water's going back in, we want to be re-aerating what the filter itself actually takes out. Otherwise, the water coming out of that filter can often be in deficit, and therefore the fish will compete for our oxygen. So I'm a little bit worried these fish are breathing a little bit too heavily. So I just want to really keep an eye on that. I want more surface agitation. Okay, now I've purposely not filled the tank up too much because what I really want is this. I really want good agitation and I want good water flow. Because at the moment, all we've got is 2 canisters, which can actually lower the oxygen level. And then we've got 1 little air stone. So I want to keep an eye on that. And the other thing I want to draw attention to too is just looking at it. It looks to be fairly flat that way. But on this way, it looks like this is higher than, that's higher than that. So you can see that there's a bigger gap there than that, which means it's sort of angling down a little bit, which just means that it wouldn't last as long as maybe as if it was leveled properly. And it also means that if you ever move that to another location, then there's a good chance you'll crack it. Because what happens is the aquariums get used to being in a certain spot, and it's when you move the aquarium where you tend to get the problems. So just be aware that this one is on a slight lean forward, which means if you put that in another location where it wasn't a lean forward, the chance of this big pain cracking is higher, or so we can let it go. So you really want to level your aquariums before you put them in. Otherwise, this is a risk that you've got. Absolute best thing for your fish is salt. So we would need pretty much all of this to dose this properly. 1 gram per litre, depending on what dose rate you're looking for. So let's say I half dose that, and next time I want to put the other half in after we check the GH level, because increasing our salinity, increasing our salt level is one of the absolute best ways of improving body slime and immune system. So GH and salinity is very tied up with body slime and immune system, and especially for brackish water fish like this, because Sydney tap water is very brackish, then this is going to be a massive aid for these fish and help to discourage algae. Fish keeping is 50% food quality and 50% water quality. So if we just integrate those foods into the diet as a little treat every now and then, that's fine. But moving forward, the food that I'd really like to feed is Danichi Color. Now this food here will make these fish unbelievably healthy and unbelievably colorful. So I find that this brings the best out in your fish. It's a slow cooked food, it's holistic, and it's set up the absorption rate of the fish. So that's the main food I want to be feeding. I also want to get into the diets and probiotics. Now the probiotics introduce good bacteria into the guts of the fish and help to make sure that when the fish poo, due to the probiotic bacteria in the food, the bacteria in the poo physically eats the poo. So this food here makes your tank really clean. Now the last thing I'm going to do is pour some of this in. Now Easy Life is fabulous stuff. What it basically does is hold in solution what should be in solution and drop out of solution what shouldn't be in solution. When I leave this tank, you won't really be able to see because it'll make the water cloudy. But then when the water clears, a big dose like this was very good for the fish. Now I have added a thermometer, and what we have that for is that we want to make sure that the temperature doesn't go below about 22 degrees, otherwise we will lose that catfish. So in the meantime, we'll look at putting a heater in there, and then the fish will think it's summer all year, and then the tropical fish that we add later will be fine, because we want to add non-goldfish because goldfish are messy. So the water's not looking that great. The salinity is absolutely zero, so that's something I'd want to bring up for the body slime and immune system of the fish. The KH is almost zero, it's just over 1. If it was 0, I'd be very worried, but I definitely want to raise the KH. The GH is only 6, so I would definitely want that up. That's going to help the immune system and body slime of the fish. The pH is 6, and considering a couple of large water changes that has been done, then that means that the pH was probably much worse, because any decomposition such as more fish waste from dead fish or from overfeeding is going to make the water more acidic, and therefore that's going to bring the pH down. So none of that is a good sign. Also, your phosphates are high, they're 5, not a big drama, but once again still acids. Now there is ammonia and nitrite in the filter. Now that would suggest to me that the filter's not been getting cleaned properly, because the filters were very dirty, but they really looked dirty as in a lot of dirt going into the filter. It didn't look like there was a lot of good bacteria breaking the waste down. So I would want to make sure the filter is getting cleaned in tank water, not tap water. The other thing is that the medias that are in those filters are quite primitive. You could get much better medias in the filter, such as Marine Pure. I did add some polyfilter, that should make a huge difference. And the nitrate is 35, which isn't too bad. And I wouldn't expect that to be too bad, because a couple of large water changes have occurred, and I've had to take this water sample after I've done the service. So I would definitely want the water to be better than this, because my test kit wasn't working, so I've had to bring it back to the shop to do the test accurately. And though the water isn't as bad as maybe it was because of the water changes, the water is still bad. I would want to do a follow-up service as soon as possible, and I'd want to raise KH and pH and GH quite urgently. What I would also do with this tank, if it was mine, I would add an extra aerator, because I would want more good surface agitation. That's something that I would prefer, because higher dissolved oxygen levels is going to be lower CO2 levels, which means less algae, and it also means your bacteria is likely to work faster because you're going to have a better redox potential. So your more efficient bacteria is going to help keep that tank clean. So more oxygen would definitely be something that I would like to see.